What's going on, bros? It's good to be back with you guys. I'm coming at you down here in Florida. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what's happening behind me here after the intro, but you guys came here to talk about crypto, and guess what? Right now, crypto is going to the upside. It has pulled back here a little bit in the last couple of minutes, but there's some massive news coming out today as the Fed has hinted towards potential rate cuts coming. Does that mean that crypto and the traditional stock markets are ready to fly back up after some major dips over the last couple of weeks? We're going to talk about all of that and a whole lot more, so you do not want to leave. Make sure you stick around all the way to the end. Smash the like button if you enjoy the content. And if you're new here, please consider hitting that subscribe button as well. But first, before any of that, we got to roll the intro. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Investing Bros live show. It is going to be a fun day today. I'm so glad to be back with you guys. Have not been here for the afternoon show since Monday. And man, it's been a crazy week. We're going to get into a lot of that here in a little bit. But before that, got to introduce these two fine gentlemen, tell you what is happening behind me. Because some of you might be asking, is this Tim's new set? It's not. But let's start with Child of God here. Smay, I love the hat. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm on the tail end of being ill, but
Yeah.
I've conquered it. My body has conquered it, and yeah.
Yeah, Smay made the long drive down. It's not long, it's like 2 hours down to my house and helped me set up a beautiful new set. Right, we're gonna. I was hoping we were gonna be able to show it today. You guys are gonna have to wait till Monday, but I'm very excited about the new Florida set. Before we get into the conversation there, why I'm not using it right now, Tshroom, you're joining me with the no hat move. Is that why the markets are
Right.
pumping today? How are you doing, my friend?
Tim, I'm doing better than I deserve. Rooting for big Bryson DeChambeau in the Masters. Hope he
Okay.
gets the big dub like the Gators got the big dub. Because the folks that I tend to cheer for tend to win.
Yeah. Could you start rooting for the Hokies then? Because we need
Hey,
some help.
maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there we go. We're gonna get into it today. Glad to know everyone's doing well. Yeah. So I got down here. Quick story time. And then we're gonna get into. We're gonna look at charts real quickly. Then get
Oh
into the
yeah.
news and talk about a lot of stuff. Uh, my wife set up the appointment for the Wi-Fi weeks ago, and she got like texts like every other day about it. Somehow, some way, they canceled our entire setup yesterday. We were supposed to be live. We were supposed to be able to run the show from my home. No Wi-Fi at my house still, so that's not going to be set up till this weekend. We'll be back Monday. I'll tell you this: I will. I'm really excited about the new set. I really like the new look of it. I'll probably let all our VIP traders get a glimpse of it this weekend before Monday's afternoon show. So if you want to see it, go join the VIP trading group for a lot of other reasons too. Some great stuff happening over there. I've noticed. I've been looking through chat, man, with all the chaos that you guys in our VIP training group still been crushing it this week, even without me here. I love seeing it. This community has always been bigger than me. I'm glad to be here, be one of the faces of it, but you guys are what makes this community so special. If you guys are new here, I encourage you very highly. If you like the show today, you like what we go through, how we talk about things, how we explain it, consider joining that VIP trading group because there's going to be some big things happening in the next couple of weeks that the VIP traders are going to be some of the biggest winners of what the changes the bros are making. So I encourage you, go check that out. With that said, though, let's go take a look at some charts here just briefly and just what has been happening this week. If you guys have been like me, a little bit busy this week, a little distracted from the markets, look at this nice double bottom on a level that we identified weeks ago down here at 74.4. I'm actually, I'll be honest with you, we'll talk more about this later in the charts. I'm very surprised we haven't gone lower. Not saying we can't go lower, but what we are witnessing today, both in the charts and in the news, which we're going to talk about, could signal that the bottom is in. And again, you're pairing that with the double bottom right there. That's very interesting. Since then, we put in a higher high and higher low here. Again, so this is a high right here on April 7th. Here's a high right here on April 9th. You love seeing this bullish structure. And right now, we're wrestling with that resistance level right here beneath $84,000. What about the S&P 500? Where we talked about this a couple weeks ago as well. The different levels of support. I said, don't be surprised to come back up and reject on this level that was support only a couple weeks ago. Sure enough, here, what is this, 2 days ago, we rejected, got all the way back up almost to 5,500 again. We've rejected, but are we about to see a breakthrough on this front as well in the S&P 500? How about gold continuing to skyrocket to the upside? New highs today. We're up here at $3,200 per ounce of gold. Holy crap. The markets are going nuts right now. We're going to come back and look at this stuff a little bit later. But first, before we do, let's talk to Tshroom. Said it his way. Why are we going so crazy right now? What's happening in the news that maybe if people have been busy at work today, they haven't been able to pay attention to X or other platforms that are breaking this down? What's happening that is causing crypto prices and the stock market to go crazy today? And is this long-term sustainably bullish, or are we about to get a rude awakening with some sort of trap back down?
Yeah. Well, other than watching the Masters, I've been locked in on Twitter and the charts, and I have summarized it all for you. Here we go. We started the morning 9 a.m. bright and early. China raised tariffs on these United States to 125%, and then markets did not like that pre-market. The ES minis did trade lower, but then we got a very favorable PPI print. The month over month was negative 0.4%. The expectation was positive 0.2%. So pretty decent beat there. And then on down the chart there, you have positive outcomes, objectively bullish. Markets need to pump on this or we likely go lower. We did get a pump. And so this is bringing investor sentiment back where it needs to be. But it is just the beginning, right? Not time to bet the farm just yet. Definitely not a full confirmation of a reversal back to the upside, but this is definitely bullish, and the market has rewarded it. Moving along in the morning, the United States tells China to initiate a call between President Xi and the U.S. president. That has not happened yet. To my knowledge, to the knowledge of the media, this has not yet happened, and this would be the second day in a row, that the extension for a phone call has been made. Tell me what you think in the comments. Tell me in the chat. What do you think is going to happen next? Do you think that the back and forth has been good? We did hear, though, from the Chinese President Xi says there are no winners in a tariff war. Going against the world would only lead to self-isolation. So kind of coded words, a little bit passive, in my opinion, but that's essentially what we got. And then to wrap up the morning, India agreed to negotiate new trade deal with the United States, and that's generally not what the Chinese want to see. That's not what you want to see if you're trying to make the United States look like the bad guy or the loser in this trade war. So, Tim, that was this morning. We'll get into the Fed stories as well, because obviously that's a big part of why the markets are pumping now. But let's digest what happened this morning. What is your impression? What's your takeaway from the PPI and the trade war developments?
I left with a lot of chaos happening with tariff talk, and of course now I'm back and nothing has changed. And we told you guys, don't expect tariff chaos to go away for quite a while. I have to agree with something that Xi Jinping is saying here. The tariffs are not necessarily great for anybody. Again, like them, love them, hate them, think they're the right plan or not, they will have negative impacts, not only on other countries, which they clearly are. We're watching the stock markets worldwide fall, but also on Americans. What's crazy, though, when you read those PPI numbers, and of course, even though I was unpacking my truck, I always stop and like to take a look at things on my phone on X. I see that yesterday CPI numbers came in crushing it, right? Inflation as a whole, at least right now, the data we're looking at right now over the last 2 days, is very, very low. So even that right there, as we're kind of getting ready to talk about some remarks the Fed has made here this afternoon, low inflation is going to allow the Fed to feel a little more comfortable about cutting rates. And I want to save the CME futures, the FedWatch tool, until after we hear the news here in a second. But I still think there's going to be some form of a deal done, more than likely in the next couple of weeks or months, between China and the United States. I don't know for certain. I just would imagine it's going to be very interesting, though. I do think that Trump and the United States have pinned themselves in a corner with some very strong language, and Xi Jinping is very, very obvious as well. He's saying out here, he's like, "Listen, I'm not saying I'm not willing to do a deal, but I'm not going to let people just bully me around, and I'm not going to give the United States everything he wants." And pretty much Trump has said, "I want equality of the deficit. I don't want to be sending any more money to China than China's sending to the United States. I think Bessent came out earlier today. I don't know if this was planned, Tshroom, but I saw this earlier. I think Bessent came out and said something along the lines of kind of echoing something we talked about weeks ago. The reality here is, I think in Trump's team's mindset, they're tired of seeing the wealth of the United States get taken and put in other countries. That's where that deficit's coming so big, such a big deal. I don't know. I don't see a route. Let me know in the comments down below. I don't see a route to get what Xi Jinping wants, and I don't see a route to get what Trump wants either. I'm very curious to see who folds, who compromises. They both have kind of come out very strong saying that we want a deal, but we're not going to move from our current spot. Again, I'm optimistic about a deal being done soon, but it is a very rough road ahead. So I do want people prepared, despite the fact that we are going to be talking about some positive news here in just a couple seconds. That is something that is going to keep me in, as Tshroom been phrasing, and I love the way he phrased it, a defensive mode, right? I'm bullish. I have my long-term bags. I am still defensive, though, because this is a market right now. I called it the other day a clown market. We're not in a bull market or a bear market. We're in a clown market where any moment the price can pop up like we have today, and any moment the price can fall out beneath us. That is where we still are right now. And until we get a little more clarity, or maybe we start to see some other things kind of solve it, like, for example, India, maybe are we able to produce enough in India to where the massive amount of prices that we get, or the amounts of things we get from China get kind of wiped out. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work. I saw Amazon. The last thing I'll say here, and I'll throw it back to you, Tshroom. I know this because my wife loves Amazon. I don't know many days that go by at the Warren household where an Amazon package isn't on the doorstep. Amazon let everyone know, hey, prices are going to be increasing here. Why? Because of tariffs, right? So, like it, love or hate it, housewives everywhere across the United States are hating these tariffs right now because their Amazon packages just got more expensive. We'll see how this one plays out. We're going to continue to monitor this chaos. Today, it's a good day. Who knows if this weekend ends up bringing it all back down. Tshroom, I'm going to throw it back to you before we get into the good news for the day. What are your thoughts about all that? Did you see that? Have you noticed your Amazon packages getting a little more expensive recently?
Not quite yet, Tim. I think it's going to take a little bit of time, but it does kind of raise the question: is it maybe time? If you think that the timeline for an agreement, a shaking of the hands between the President of the United States and Xi Jinping is going to be a long timeline, then are you buying up maybe pallets of coffee, pallets of electronics, iPhone chargers to resell in anticipation of the price of these home goods to skyrocket? I'm not quite in that extreme type of a mentality yet, but I did put a tweet out a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of days ago, kind of asking that question. What would you go out and bulk buy? Of course, toilet paper came up, but
Yeah.
no, Tim, I think that we don't know yet, right? We don't know what the timeline's going to be. Kind of both sides are playing hardball, continuing every day to ratchet up the tariffs higher and higher to these ridiculous, obviously unsustainable levels. You know, it's really going to come down to which one capitulates, which one compromises. Perhaps a third party is able to come in, and maybe India, maybe Russia, maybe the EU. A third party comes in and alters the dynamic in a positive, productive way. But ultimately, right now, it's just a big ball of uncertainty. We don't know. I don't know. There's probably
Yeah.
a handful of people around the president of the U.S. and the president and Xi Jinping who maybe have a better idea than the rest of the market, but it's kind of anybody's say at this point how this is going to go. So that's kind of my take. Continuing to stay defensive. I did deploy a little bit of capital. I talked about it on the show yesterday. Talked about it in the Discord, obviously, where I put my buys first. I publish what I'm buying first in the Discord. So I am back to buying. I've unfrozen my pause on buying. But I'm kind of in a nibbling phase, nibbling back in. I am liking what I'm seeing. The market interpret the uncertainty, starting to see some higher lows, especially on Bitcoin. Now we're pushing higher. So that's kind of the way that I'm seeing it. The way I see it is different from the way the market's digesting it. But I'm overall pretty bullish, becoming more bullish for the midterm, and never stop being bullish for the long term.
We're going to get into the big news today, why crypto is responding so bullishly right now. But before we do, I wanted to do one more thing here in the segment. Smay, come on up here. This is a good segment for us, the three bros, to have our predictions. All right. Chat, let us know your thoughts as well. As we wrap up this segment, we'll have to continue to watch this over the next couple of weeks. Right now, Trump says, I am not doing a deal with China unless they agree to have an equal deficit, right? He wants zero tariffs and a balanced deficit. Xi Jinping, I don't know exactly what he said, but he's obviously not going to go that far. He says, I'm not going to allow the bullying. I'm willing to make a deal, but I'm not going to go as far as Trump. Let's predict right now. We'll go percentage split. What will the compromise look like for a deal to be done with the United States and China? Because I do think one will happen, but let's just kind of say our prediction here. Do you think it's going to be 80% what Trump wants versus 20% what Xi Jinping wants? Is it going to be more 50-50? Tshroom, I'll start with you. Smay, I'll go with you, and I'll go last. What's your prediction on this split here, Tshroom, on a final deal?
In the way that I think you're asking the question, I think that the final compromise will be a lot of China getting what they want and not a lot of what the United States getting what they want. But I think that this is a very narrow question. I think it's obviously
give me a percentage split. Give me a percentage split. How much? Pretty much, Trump's been very clear. What percentage of what he's asking for do you think he's going to get to make a deal done?
Well, I think in the short term, it would be impossible for the supply chain of goods to the United States to be sustained if we got everything we wanted, if there was a trade rebalancing completely. So I would say maybe 70-30 China.
70-30 China. Okay, interesting. Smay, what about you?
I think it's going to be 90% China. 90-10 China. I think the U.S. actually loses on this.
But let me clarify though that
lost.
I think
we're gonna lose. We're gonna lose big. You're gonna get tired of losing, people.
You're asking a very narrow question here, Tim, on specifically the trade deficit. I think that the art of the deal kind of strategy.
I think we're going to move on because I don't think that it's very clear what I was asking. I wasn't saying anything about the deficit. I was saying when you look at who wants what the percentage. But I didn't think it was going to get this complicated, so I apologize. We're going to move on. I was going to say I think that I'm opposite of you guys. I think that it'll be closer to like a 70-30 split. The United States will get 70% of what they want. China will have to compromise a little further. Again, I probably didn't phrase it correctly. So for that sake, let's just move on. Chat, if you understood what I was saying, I see a lot of people putting their thoughts in there. Let me know your thought. Who wins the trade? China, United States? Who compromises more? Let's move on, though, and let's get into the good news here, Tshroom. Something that we are on the same page. We understand what's happening, and this is some good stuff that crypto holders have been waiting for this news for quite a while. It's not official yet, but it is the beginning signs. For that, Tshroom, take it away.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the Federal Reserve absolutely ready to help stabilize the market if needed. This is a quote from the Boston Fed president, Susan M. Collins. This comes to us by way of the Financial Times. The quotation goes on to say, additional standing facilities can help to support market functions that are already in place. The core interest rate tool we use for monetary policy is certainly not the only tool in the toolkit and probably not the best way to address challenges of liquidity or market functioning. So, Tim, this is the key term here, in my opinion. Yeah. We haven't seen it from the Fed yet in this tariff saga, but this would be the standing facilities. It's a way of printing money, not necessarily lowering interest rates. So this is interesting coming from the Fed, and I want to get your take on it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so we've heard some different things said from the Fed that say that, hey, we're considering, it's a possibility, but for right now we're managing our data. It'll be really interesting to hear the next time Jerome Powell speaks, honestly, because he's the voice. He only gets one vote, but he's the voice. I think a lot of people do take what he says seriously. But to hear one of the voting members come out and say we have the skills if needed to fix the stock market, that means if you start to see any more of a dip here, right? I don't know if we're going to see necessarily a cut before June if the markets continue to go to the upside, but even the markets just knowing that the Fed and Trump might not have this headbutting going on. I mean, yeah, Trump is just he's using fights with people abroad, right, local. There's been a little bit of a butting of heads from the Fed and Trump. Trump's very adamant. He wants the Fed to cut rates. It looks like we're seeing the signs saying, all right, listen, if we have a problem and if the markets are struggling, we do have a way to let's not sugarcoat it. Let's bail them out. We're going to bail them out. We're going to use our tools. We can cut rates. We can turn on the money printers. We can do a lot of different things. Even if they don't do it, just the markets and the investors knowing that the Fed has taken their foot out of the ground, right? In this tug of war, they've taken their foot out of the ground. They're saying, listen, if we need to do it, we'll cut. If we need to fix this, we will go up. That is a confidence boost to the markets, right? So we're not rallying because they have cut rates. And in fact, I don't even know if they're necessarily going to cut rates by May. But if we have another big crash, if we see another major bearish day, do we see an emergency meeting from the Fed and now they say, yeah, we have the tools, let's go ahead and do it, let's cut the rates? That is why I see people getting so bullish today. With that said, let's go take a look at the CME futures here on my screen, because this is something that I like to watch. They're not necessarily getting any memo about a rate cut coming soon, right? So that's why I'm saying, well, you might not get one in May. You guys know last week this was closer to 50-50 about a rate cut in May. Today it's coming in pretty much at 80%, right? So about a 20% chance that we get a cut in May or before May. But realistically, CME is still saying 80% is we're going to have a pause in May. June, we're still looking at, it looks pretty likely. I have a 24% chance we say pause, but that still leaves us with a 76% chance of the first rate cut coming in June. So I want to make sure people are clear on this. This news does not mean we're about to see rate cuts. It doesn't mean we'll see them even before June. What it means is, for the first time, you can go off my screen now here, Smay. For the first time in a long time, the Fed is not really fighting that narrative. It looks like they're saying we're willing to do so if that is what's required. And they weren't very clear, other than they say the market. So I would assume, again, if the market's going positively and we could hold the current interest rate, fine. But if they need to add liquidity in, if the markets do start to go back down a little bit, all of a sudden, boom, we have that QE, we have that quantitative easing finally looking at us on the table. And it's very close, it feels. And that's what's bringing so much confidence. Tshroom, before we move into the charts, anything you want to add to that point that I just made? Anything you want to disagree with or say about that?
I mean, look, like the Federal Reserve doesn't want to be caught behind the 8 ball. A lot of folks think that Jerome Powell has done a fairly decent job as far as Keynesian economics goes. But the main criticism that you hear again and again is that he's been too slow with his policy implementation. So, I think that what they don't want to do is deny the criticisms and ignore the criticisms of the Fed. And I'm not talking about from crypto Twitter. I'm talking about from seasoned economists as well as crypto Twitter, right, that have criticized them about being too late. So, I think that's the one thing that they can't afford to do from a reputational standpoint is be late to the party. And if they do, if they don't cut by July, I think it's going to be very clear that the Federal Reserve has taken on a partisan perspective, let's say.
I agree 100%. With that said, let's go ahead and go into the charts now. Let's get in, as we've been doing here recently. I'm going to start off with the S&P 500, right? The big one in the stock market people are watching. I said this earlier, but if you're just joining us, welcome to the show. Smash the like button. I think we have over 1,000 people watching at this point. Let's get those likes up. Let's get 500 likes today, guys. Let's get to 500 likes by the end of the show. Help me out there. It's free. We talked about a couple different support levels here for the S&P 500 over the last couple of weeks. We've gotten obliterated here. We have fallen all the way down here to 4,800, a level that we had not seen in the S&P 500 since back in January of 2024. There are some stocks, I think I was looking at it earlier today, for example, Nike. You have to imagine with all this chaos going on, some of these stocks, especially ones that are China-based, are going to be struggling. Nike fell here this week to levels we hadn't seen since back in 2017. Forget the 2018 little bit of a recession. Forget COVID's dip. Forget 2022. We went down in Nike to prices we hadn't seen since November of 2017. So I knew some things are bleeding here. S&P 500, again, has it eliminated all the gains that we had in 2024? It did. It's working on rebuilding them here. Let's go back into the screen here. But it did come down to levels we hadn't seen since early back in 2024. I told you guys, though, hey, look for this level. I've kind of had it in red and green. Look for these levels to be rejected on if we cannot sustain bullish movement. So we're at a decision moment right now in the S&P 500 as we've made it back up to what was former support. We're working on potentially, are we deciding, are we turning into resistance? Are we going to blast on through? That's going to be the big question. One thing I am seeing that's helping us out, this thin blue line, the Lux Algo indicator is showing us a slight bullish divergence here. Not quite getting it on the RSI or the MACD, but one thing we talked about last week, I want to remind some of you, is that the RSI on the daily chart here for the S&P 500 reached 21. It had not been that low. You have to scroll back quite a while. The last time it was at 21 was back in, guess when? February, March of 2020. That was back during COVID, and of course, had a major short-term crash followed by a major rally and a continual bull market to the upside, right? So even though we don't have the bullish divergence just yet on the RSI, we have it from the Luxago oscillator, and we're seeing historical RSI levels for the S&P 500 that show after a pretty big disaster, a big scare to the market, it looks ready to bounce back to the upside. So that's what we're watching right here. Let's continue to keep an eye on the S&P 500. Do we get a rejection here over the week? Well, we can't get over the weekend. Monday, right? We're pretty much probably going to close right up here. We only have a couple of hours left for the S&P 500 here today. Actually, an hour maybe. I think it closes at 4:30. What happens Monday? Are we able to resume and continue this rally? What happens to crypto over the weekend will probably say a lot about how that ends up responding. But that's what we're watching right there. Real quickly, I want to check in on the VIX. The VIX, I told you, is one of the other bottom indicators. Whenever you see these massive spikes in the VIX, these oftentimes match up with bottoms like August of 2024. You scroll back even farther, you go back here to March of 2020. You go back here to January 2018. These are major local bottom levels. So again, the evidence is still piling up. If the VIX continues to drop back down, which it's doing, the evidence is continuing to pile up that what we just saw in the S&P 500 historically does look like a local bottom, and we should be making our way back towards the upside. On the other side, though, on the crypto front, let's take a look at Bitcoin. Starting off, Bitcoin Dominance doing what we told you guys it was going to do, is going to keep on climbing here. We have some altcoin stories here, or we have one altcoin story to bring up in just a couple minutes. One of our favorite altcoins is pumping, and for good reason. But that Bitcoin Dominance is still making some higher pushes here, wrestling with 64% once again. This is right here on the 4-hour chart. Let me go up to the daily chart here. There we go. Yeah, the highest daily. If we close the daily candle here in the next, 4 hours or so, 4.5 hours, this will be the highest close for the Bitcoin Dominance that we've seen in a long time. We have to go all the way back here to times like February of 2021, right? The last altcoin season. We haven't really gotten a good altcoin season like we normally do, and the reason for that is because the 4-year cycle probably is over, dead and gone. But we have not seen this high of a close in years. That's the reason why right now in the crypto world, I'm not saying don't buy altcoins. I have bought some altcoins, but I'm buying a lot more Bitcoin than I am altcoins right now because it's still Bitcoin season. There will come a time, I think, as we get closer towards 64, 65% that, or 65% that maybe you're going to start to see altcoins take off, but that's going to be something to keep an eye on a little bit later. Let's take a look at the Bitcoin chart, where here we go. This is going to be the big talk that people are going to be wondering what happens next. Cryptos will follow what Bitcoin does here. So I just finished talking about the Bitcoin Dominance. Altcoins will still rally. Altcoins will still fall. Altcoins, you can almost, and I'm saying almost because it's not perfectly here. We're not here to trade this afternoon, but if you're a trader, you could almost trade most of the large altcoins just by watching the Bitcoin chart. You don't have to have support resistance on the altcoin charts. It's nice to have them, but just watching, is Bitcoin rallying? Buy the altcoins. Is Bitcoin falling? Sell the altcoins. Like that is why this Bitcoin chart is so important that we cover it every single day, because it's going to give you everything you need with your altcoins as well. Bitcoin is on the verge right now of making a major breakout back above this red line. Now, this red line is a long-term resistance of a falling wedge pattern, a very bullish pattern. And we had a little bit of a fake out here on April 2nd. It looked like we were going to make a major breakout back there. We did not. So as we're making a second attempt here, the second time we finally got some wicks above, it's going to be very important that we do what April 2nd could not do. Right? Go back to this blue candle here. April 2nd, while we wicked all the way back up to 88,400, this, of course, was the same day that I think Trump was speaking. What was that? What was the speech he was speaking of? Let me know in the comments. There was a day he was speaking. That was the big volatility day. Brought the prices back down. We told you guys on that day, we need to get a daily candle to close above this red line, right? The first thing we need is a daily candle to close above that red line. The next thing you need is the next day's candle, so that would have been April 3rd, to open and close above that level. Didn't get it, okay? We are close to the first part, right? We do have a couple more hours here, but can Bitcoin close its candle where it currently is? It'd be nicer if it was a little higher here, but can we get back above this red line and close above that red line? Then it's about, can we do it tomorrow on Saturday? It'd be nice to do it on Sunday as well, but that would be the defining factor to get us back into a bullish perspective here with Bitcoin. What we're watching, if this breakout is successful, is a potential major move on Bitcoin back above 100,000. This formation, which not everyone's a formation trader, but I want to make sure I'm pointing it out to you guys, just so you're aware of it. The falling wedge patterns, you take the opening of the pattern, you move it over to the breakout spot. This would suggest if this pattern plays out, that Bitcoin would want to make its way all the way back to 104,000. If you guys have been watching the channel for a while, you know that my kind of line in the sand before I want to, like, I'm not going to talk about brand new all-time highs for Bitcoin until Bitcoin gets back above 100K, right? Until then, you're still technically in this lower high, lower low trend. You can see it's very clearly right here displayed. We're very bullish on the shorter time frames, but if you're out here on the daily chart, you cannot deny these are lower highs, lower lows. That's a bear trend, everybody. And until I get back above 100K, I'm going to be a little hesitant to prepare for new all-time highs for Bitcoin. Doesn't mean I'm not buying. Doesn't mean I'm not bullish long term. It just means I'm not going to sit here and get overly bullish and tell people the bull market's officially back on until we get back here above 100K. If this breakout happens, it would be the first step towards making that move. Another big thing is, as we watched a good daily buy signal here back on March 12th, we're getting another one here from the Luxago oscillator where we already had the reversal indicators. We had bullish divergence, and now green reversal and that money flow starting to go positive here on the daily chart with a target up here back towards $88,000. That would be good enough to get those closes back above that red line that we talked about. What's really cool is we're also seeing another buy signal starting to come in here on the 2 daily chart. Again, reversals, green momentum, and then that positive money flow starting to flow back in. So you're seeing all these major Luxago buy signals coming in. You're seeing the RSI, the MACD starting to get bullish. We already know we traced here last week. Oop, did not mean to go down there. We traced a bullish divergence here where we did put in lower lows on the MACD, the RSI, and the Luxago oscillator, but the price action all is putting in higher lows. Anyone who does technical analysis knows divergence, bullish divergence, major bottom signals. In the same way, a top signal back here in December, January was long-term bearish divergence, right? So for the first time since way back in December, we actually have a weekly bullish signal, not a bearish one telling us we have bearish divergence. We now have the bullish divergence. So a lot of evidence piling up here with this major news that a local bottom could be in. But again, I go back, and you can go off my screen here as we transition, and we're going to get some altcoin talk here in a second. I want to be very clear with you guys. I'm showing you on the charts the bullish indicators popping up. We talked about the news, about the bullishness popping up. I want to go back and remind you what I said to you guys earlier, though. This is not a bull market, and this is not a bear market. Don't take what I'm saying as an official statement. It's kind of a joke, but I'm also being serious. People are so wrapped up right now in, are we still in a bull market? Are we in a bear market now? And the reality is we're not in either one, the way this market's moving. We are in a clown market that I'm making it up, right? But I think this will catch on. And the reason why is because the same reason why we are pumping today could be the same reason we end up falling tomorrow. The tariff chaos has put us in a spot that we like to, as people who like to study history and look at economics, we want to say, oh, the last time this happened, last time that happened. This is different. This is a different circumstance than the world has ever seen. Because in reality, again, Donald Trump could take the stage tonight and say something that sends Bitcoin back above 100,000. He also can get on that stage and say something that sends it down to 60,000 or even lower. I think this is the time, and I've said it on X last week. I want to remind you guys, this is a time to give each other a lot of grace. We are all in this together. If you're friends with someone or you see someone who's posting a lot of bearish calls, a lot of bearish indicators, I can't say that they're wrong. There's still a lot of evidence out there and possibilities that the bottom is not in for Bitcoin, and we have a lot further to go to the downside. On the flip side, though, I see a lot of people posting bullish opinions and saying the bottom is in. And I'm like, you know what? It very well might be. We very well could have seen the bottom signal right there. And now with the Fed saying, hey, we're willing to cut rates if needed, we could have just seen the bottom. The reality is nobody, and I literally mean nobody. I don't think Larry Fink knows. I don't think Donald Trump knows. I don't think Xi Jinping knows. I don't think Satoshi Nakamoto knows what the next move for the markets are going to be. So this is why you hodl, you hold tight, you stay defensive, keep some dry powder for just in case, save a little bit extra budget if you can, if you do see some sort of major dip. We could go lower, we could go higher. That's not fun analysis. You guys don't want to hear could go up, could go down, but this is a clown market. And I would be doing you a disservice, and I would be lying to you to tell you I can guarantee you we're going one of two, either of these directions, because it's not that simple. So stick around. We'll continue to monitor all this. We will still trade these markets. Again, another reason why you guys need to be in that VIP trading group is because even in a clown market, we can still identify local levels of support and resistance and make some money trading up and trading down. Hodl on as best you can for your long-term bags, because whether we're in a bear market or a bull market, it will go up again eventually. But give each other some grace. Be kind to people in chat here on YouTube, over in X. Nobody knows what's going to happen next, and that's why it's such a good time to lock in and pay attention to every little detail. Now, with that said, let's transition here away from the macro. Let's get into some smaller stuff. There was a major story coming out today with one of my favorite altcoins. I see you guys in chat asking for it. Its name is ONDO. Tshroom, I'm going to throw it to you. What is going on with ONDO today? Why is ONDO one of the top moving altcoins today? It's up over 11.5%. Why is that, Tshroom?
Binance lists ONDO to its 250 million registered users. It's called a listing, Tim, and it is very, very big and bullish. It essentially opens up the possibility for a lot more people, a lot more dollars, euros, fiat, Bitcoin, to go ahead and flip into this RWA play that we like here at the Investing Bros called ONDO. Tim, how are the charts reacting to this major development?
Yeah, that's major. Remember, Binance, in case anyone's wondering why is that so important, Binance is still the number one exchange in the world, right? Even though a lot of Americans, unless you use a VPN of some sort, a lot of Americans can't use it. Almost everyone else worldwide uses Binance. It was one of the earliest ones. It is a big exchange. It comes with a very big win when you get listed on there. Let's take a look at ONDO's chart. Let's start off way on the weekly chart. Just look at the weekly candle this week. And this is not all from today, but very big response here. You know, ONDO came down and went a little bit lower, but we told you guys this is a falling wedge, falling channel, kind of similar to what Bitcoin's going through. ONDO has continued to hold this support and, again, made a major move. It's now coming up closer towards the red level, the resistance level. Let's come down to the daily chart here. There you go. Daily chart, even though back here in March 10th, we did get a little close below, didn't get the other daily candle to close below. We have held this support once again. We're making moves back up. Now, we're coming into that red resistance level, not only of the channel, but also the smart trail from the Luxago indicators. We had a nice buy signal, green support, bullish momentum. The daily channel would say, hey, we could reject here around 95 cents and come back down. Let's see what happens on the higher ones. But I'm going to show you here in a little bit. Well, I guess I can tell you right now, this formation, if we get a breakout here, would suggest a move for ONDO back up towards $1.60 if the bulls can get all their stuff together and start to make this push. You know, even if Bitcoin only makes it back up towards like 90, 95K, ONDO could use this time, especially now being listed on Binance, having some extra push there. We know it's one of the biggest real world asset plays, got a lot of support from big institutional interest companies. $1.60 is not a crazy move here for ONDO. There's a reason why it's rallying so powerfully today. Let's look at some larger time frames. Let's see how high we are getting buy signals coming in, right? So we have the 2 daily buy signal. That's going to tell us somewhere here in this range of $1.15. Very interesting. Let's go to 3 daily here, where we have just gotten a buy signal, it looks like, within this last candle. There you go. You had the bullish reversal already. We had bullish momentum, but we now have that positive flowing money flow. We are now with ONDO under a 3-day buy signal with the price target coming up here towards $1.30. How about the 5-day? I want to see, just show you how high we can get before this kind of ends. Oh, man, the 5-day. And we already had green, but look at this. You had the reverse. If I can scroll down far enough. Green reversal, bullish momentum, and that money flow never turned red here, but it's starting to go back to the upside. There you guys have a 5-day buy signal. Going to bring up the price to $1.44. And I can tell you right now, based on what I'm seeing on the 5-day, I don't know if we're going to get much of anything from the weekly chart in terms of money flow. The chart's not old enough here on Coinbase, but we do see a little green dot coming in. We do see the RSI moving back up to positive movements here. You can see long-term weekly bullish divergence with lower lows being put in, lower lows on the MACD, but those are clearly higher lows in price action. So there's your weekly bullish divergence. The MACD looks like it's getting ready to go ahead and flip and want to come back over. Where's the target from the weekly chart? That one's going to be even higher up here towards $1.70, right? So a lot of buy signals from the charts coming in with ONDO, timing it with this really good news. Again, if you asked me what are you buying right now, Tim? Bitcoin number one, right? Because Bitcoin dominance is climbing. But I'm also looking at the altcoins and I'm saying, what altcoins will institutions that are sitting on a lot of cash right now, right? For all this talk of recession and what's going to happen with the economy, companies are sitting on a lot of cash. What kind of cryptocurrencies and stocks and assets would they want to put their hard-earned money in? The real-world asset play like ONDO and Chainlink, the plays like XRP and Solana, SUI, AVAX, like these are the plays that I'm looking at right now. If you're asking me what I'm buying right now, I'm not saying those are the only coins to hold, but the coins that institutions have come out and said, we like these coins, these are going to be a part of our future. Those are the coins I'm buying right now. And one of those coins, and it's a great win for today, if I can get back to it, is ONDO. ONDO, biggest winner of the day here today. And again, some major, massive, long-term buy signals starting to creep in as we get to the end of this week. I love seeing this, right? We have not had a large, bullish white candle since all the way back here at the top back in December, right? These white candles, all very, very small. We are a couple of days away from closing a very bullish weekly candle for the first time since December of 2024. ONDO holders are loving this. I will say, though, let's get above resistance. Let's just start with getting back above $1, and then we'll start talking about that $1.15, $1.30, $1.40, $1.65 on ONDO for the next couple of weeks and months. But there's the TA there for ONDO. If you guys enjoyed that, smash that like button. Where are we at with likes right now? Yeah, see, I have over 1,000 concurrent. Love seeing you guys in here. We got 328 likes. Smay, what do you think about that? 1,000 viewers, 328 likes. How does that make you feel, Smay?
Well, not great, Tim. I think we can do better than that.
Yeah, we need to get those likes up, people. Let's answer a couple of questions. Smay, I don't know, you or Tshroom, I don't know if you guys saw any questions. Obviously, I was on the charts, was not watching chat as much. Anything in chat you guys are seeing very interesting we should answer here before wrapping the show up?
Junior's awesome. He helps around the investing bros, does a lot. Junior said, I'm feeling too bullish today for some reason. That's an interesting thought to have. These are good thoughts to have.
Don't be too bullish.
Yeah, not to be too bullish. I think that the word you want to have ringing in your ears as you're deciding whether to buy more, sell, hold, is defensive. You want to be thinking defensive. Don't be caught off sides here in some kind of crazy leverage play or something like that. So good on you there, Junior. Captain Chief said they trying to avoid cutting rates as long as possible. They said they'd rather inject liquidity than cut rates. And I looked it up and I actually just tweeted it out on the Investing Bros account, or I retweeted my post about the other tools that the Fed has. So you don't need to go to my screen for this, Smay, but there's a bunch of tools that the Fed has, more than just cutting rates. They have the open market operations, OMO. That's the Fed buying treasuries and securities and paying banks with new reserves. There's quantitative easing, which is large-scale purchase of long-term securities, treasuries, or mortgage-backed securities to lower yields and boost reserves. Discount window lending, repurchasing agreements, standing facilities, which is the one mentioned by Susan Collins today, the Boston Fed chair, Fed president, emergency lending authority, and the reserve requirement adjustments. So all of those are tools that I just read that are not rate cuts. So rate cuts are just a whole nother tool. It's the one that makes the biggest headline because it can correlate to big billion-dollar and trillion-dollar amounts. But a lot of these other ones that I'm looking, you guys are going to have to go over to the Investing Bros Twitter account. You're going to have to follow us, and then you can check out the different tools that are in the Fed's toolbox. It's billions and hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars that can be funneled into the U.S. economy, into the global markets, without even cutting the rate. So it could be an interesting direction if they want to go that way.
Yeah, and that's good to know. Again, they don't have to cut rates to do it. One of the reasons why I think that cutting rates should be considered on the table, though, is because of the recent CPI and PPI numbers. Again, not that I think they have to, and they won't if the markets keep going the upside, because it did sound like, as the Fed was talking about it, that the key decision maker here is if the market needs it, right? So again, why is that bullish, even though they're not doing anything right now, is that adds a level of, think of like comfort. Like, so a couple of years ago, my brother Caleb, who's 6'4", so it's very hard for a person of his height to do what I'm about to say. He was really wanting to do a backflip, really want to do a backflip. That's pretty scary. When you're a 6 foot, he was a tight end in college, like played college football. He's 6'4", 240. You know how hard it is for a human 6'4", 240 to do a backflip? If things go wrong, really bad stuff's going to happen, right? So I remember watching him. He was in my yard practicing, not doing very well at all, not even getting close. But it was mostly because of fear. We brought out an old mattress, just something comfortable for him, just in case something goes wrong, you're going to land on something soft. All of a sudden, his flip started getting a lot better. He started going, he started getting closer to landing on his knees and his feet. And then sure enough, after a couple hours, we took the mattress away and he did a backflip in the yard, right? So pretty impressive for his feet, bragging on my brother here a little bit. But my point here is when you're afraid and you have no blanket of comfort of anything to stop you from getting seriously hurt, it can cause you to be very defensive in what you do. And think about it in the stock market as well. If they're convinced that the Fed is going to stay strict, if they're convinced that there's no comfort beneath us, why would you put your hard-earned money and risk into the markets when it could crash and you lose everything? Just hearing that the Fed is willing to make a move, and again, I think quantitative easing is part of that. I think cutting rates is part of that with low inflation, but just even knowing that they're willing to help if needed, like a mattress on the ground for your backflip, it makes it a whole lot more comforting to take a little bit more risk, right? So that's kind of what I'm watching here now. I hope no one's watching this saying that Tim and Tshroom are predicting a rate cut by next week or by May, because that's not what we're doing here. We're saying this is bullish because it gives a little more confidence to the markets that we have not had since January, right? That's what we're watching right now. Yeah, Fade chat play so bullish on backflips with a mattress. Who in chat has done a backflip with a mattress? Let me know. Put a 1 in chat.
I like it, Tim. I like your analogy. I think people like analogies. I have a great analogy that I would like to copy and paste from Tillman Holloway over at the Beards and Bitcoin show from Chris Sinks. But do we have time for a quick analogy, do you think?
I think so. I mean, yeah. Let's do
All
it.
right. So
it's Friday. It's fun day.
So again, this is Tillman's analogy, but it was so brilliant, and it's specific to Bitcoin, right? So think about this. Imagine Bitcoin ownership as having a seat in a football stadium, right? And just picture that stadium as initially being designed for just a high school, and it's not very valuable. But over the years, you keep holding on to that seat, you keep coming back to the game year after year. But eventually you start to look around, and this is now a professional team, and it's one of the best teams out there. And, it's not just the hometown, parents of high schoolers anymore that are coming to these games. Now, all of a sudden, it's Larry Fink, and it's corporate CEOs, and it's the president of the United States. And it's like, but there's still people getting up and selling their seats. There's still people getting up and leaving and selling their seats. That's Bitcoin going from 100,000 down to 74, where we're kind of above now. Just because people are getting up and leaving their seats doesn't mean that the trend is not in the positive direction of huge, much bigger players coming and valuing these seats. So I felt like that was a really good analogy. If you're ever feeling like you want to sell your Bitcoin for investment reasons, for reasons other than having to try to just put food on the table or pay rent, always remember that analogy. Why would you be giving up a seat, a scarce seat in a stadium where some of the biggest names in finance and investment are buying up the seats? They're buying. Yeah, there's some people who are selling, but are they going to be the winners? They're not going to have seats in the same stadium as the future greatest thinkers and owners of capital are. So I thought that was a really cool analogy. Again, that's Tillman Holloway's analogy from ARK Public.
I mean, in your analogy, go further. That's what scalping seats is. You try to buy them low as possible from a bearish fan, and then you raise that price up when something interesting happens. I know people that they literally have that business where they look for good deals on seat tickets, and then they try to sell them, flip to the upside. It's the same thing with Bitcoin, though. If you're bullish, if you're thinking about Bitcoin for the next 2 months, yeah, maybe you want to sell. I don't know. Maybe it's up in 2 months. I'm just saying, like, if you're short term viewed, yeah, you might be pessimistic right now. But if you've been thinking about Bitcoin and you think about what it's going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, you see these discounted prices, you see it down 30%, you're saying, dang, I got to get me some more, right? That is the long-term perspective here. Even if the bottom's not in, this is still anytime you can buy Bitcoin down 30% from its all-time high, you got yourself a good buy signal. I saw someone else this week, and this is not, I'm not passing it off as perfect, analysis or anything, but it was pretty much like, yeah, like altcoins. You're not going to maybe catch the bottom, but when you see altcoins down 50 to 70%, that's historically a very good time to buy. Can they go lower? Absolutely, they can go lower. But in the grand scheme of things, maybe you don't want to buy altcoins that are only down 10% or only 20%. But you see 50, 60, 70% down, if that's a good altcoin, if the fundamentals are there, and again, what I told you earlier, are institutions interested in them? What I think the institutional, like just massive bull market that is coming here, whether in 2025 or in 2026 or beyond, buy the ones that they're excited about right now as those prices are down 50, 60% from all-time highs. That is the long-term winning strategy for how you invest. I saw something interesting that I think Steady Bug put here. I didn't know this. I'd have to fact check it, but interesting statistics. Steady Bug said. He said the brokerages have rate cut polls. 25% of them. It's 25% saying in May. So this doesn't add up, right? So in May, it's 25%. In June, it's 54%. And right now, it's October is the 82%, right? So I guess brokerages are predicting October. That's not necessarily saying that's officially what's going to happen. But it's interesting that SteadyBug puts that in there in perspective. Brokerages seem to think that we're going to have to wait a whole lot longer to get these rate cuts. And we'll have to wait and see. It'll be very interesting to see. And like I said, I want to go double back, triple back, quadruple back on things I've been saying this whole time. What we're seeing right now is bullish. I don't want to tell you it's not bullish, but the problem is tomorrow can be bearish. Monday can be massively bearish. Here's what I'll tell you guys. I'm going to be paying attention. If you're on a VIP trading group, I'll be talking with you this weekend. Sundays have been very interesting over the last 2.5 months. Have you guys noticed that? Sundays seem to be as volatile, if not more volatile, than any other day of the week. Could we get a break this weekend? I don't know. Keep an eye out. Again, if we're really bullish right now, you have this thing. You got to be looking over your shoulder. If we've been too bearish, look for some form of bounce. If we've been too bullish, you got to be hesitant and saying what could come in and take us all back down. I'm hopeful right now. I'm not selling my cryptocurrency. I hope no one's taking that from me, but it is. I still am in defensive mode. I still am saying, if you ask me, Tim, was 74.4 the bottom? It could be, but I'm not convinced yet. It absolutely has to be. We're seeing some good long-term buying signals. I'm adding to my bags for long-term, but I'm still staying defensive and being prepared for anything in this clown market, right? So, all right, let's go and move on into one of the last segments of the show. I'm going to bring up Smay here for the factoid of the day. Before he comes up, though, I want to encourage you guys, again, we're going to have a big announcement next week for you guys about futures, how we're doing things with the channel. A lot of back and forth our team's been talking about and how we want to build and grow with you guys. But I'll tell you this right now. Just like Trumps like to tell you when to buy crypto, this is the right time to get into the VIP trading group. There's some big stuff, some great stuff coming for the VIP trading group that they're going to win all of this. So I encourage you guys, if you've been on the fence about it, even reach out to us. Just ask us, hey, do you guys have – if you guys DM us privately in Discord and DM us, we don't DM you, I'll tell you a secret about the VIP trading group. I'm not going to tell you guys here on YouTube until next week. So you got to DM me over there. This is the right time to join, though. A lot of stuff happening over there. Smay, it's time for your favorite part of the show, my favorite part of the show, probably 10% of the chat's favorite part of the show, maybe 100%. I don't know. The factoid of the day. What do you got for us today, Smay?
Tim, today has been a day full of analogies, and I would like to give you all an analogy. Sorry. I'd like to give you all an analogy right now. You know, you guys should go join the Discord. All right, jumping into factoid of the day, brought to you by decrypted.tax. That was fancy. I didn't even intend to do that. What fruit has exploded aboard aircraft due to changes in air pressure? A, mango, B, durian, C, banana, or D, watermelon?
What's a
I'm
durian?
going Charlie. Banana.
You've never seen a durian?
No.
Let me find a picture of a durian for you.
You've not done very much fruit exploration, have
No,
you?
you're not a big fruit guy.
Zero
are
idea
you?
what a durian is.
You're
You
not a
don't
big
like to
fruit
set
guy.
seal. You don't like to set sail on the seas of culinary
That, Tim, is a
exploration.
durian.
Look at that.
Okay.
I don't think that's exploding
Okay.
on an airplane.
That right there.
I still lean towards D of watermelon, and the reason why is because I've seen watermelons crack in other things. So I'm imagining air pressure could get to a watermelon as well. It's got water in there. It could.
Well, it wouldn't
things
be
can
air
expand.
pressure. It would be atmospheric pressure.
I don't care. Pressure. Again, watermelons can be crazy, right? I'm going D. I don't know. Exploding banana. I just really struggled to see an exploding banana.
Well, it's the right answer.
I'm going
so.
watermelon. D.
All right, and Tshroom, what did you say?
He said C.
Charlie.
Banana.
C. All right.
Banana.
That seems like the most unlikely, and I already know the answer. All right, anyways, drum roll. Ladies and gentlemen, Tshroom absolutely flubbed it. It is B.
It's a durian.
The durian, the fruit
This
that we
this
just
isn't
talked
fair,
about.
though, because I didn't even know what a durian was until this.
First of all,
whole thing went.
everyone else knows what a durian is. And here's the thing, Tim, about durians.
I do not. Hold on. Let's pause right there.
Yeah.
Chat. Be honest. Do you know what a durian? Put a Y for you know what a durian is. Put an N for you had no idea what that was.
Let me jog your memory. You ever heard of the stinky fruit? The fruit that smells like a dead body?
There's
That's
a lot
what.
of food that smell
Okay.
bad.
Well, anyways, that's what a durian is. It smells really bad. So what happened is, I mean, this sounds like a terrible day in an airplane. I'm assuming one guy traveling back from Durian Land brought a durian onto the plane. It exploded and smelled like death. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, this is terrible.
rough.
This
That's
is the
rough.
worst thing in the world." And so now durians are completely banned on airlines. So,
For good
And
reason.
how
it
does that
sounds
make
like.
you feel?
well, it makes me feel like I'm glad I wasn't on that airplane that day.
Yeah.
So, anyways, back
That's
to
good.
you.
I think we made some progress today.
We all learned something. We learned what a durian is. Smay learned that not everybody knows what it is. There's a lot of N's in chat over there.
Wow.
A lot of people do not know what durians are, but we now know what durians are. They're exploding, stinky, dead fruit. Don't take them on your airlines. That's your lesson of the day. Guys, it's been great to be back. I know a lot of you guys missed me. I miss you guys. Give it up, though, for Smay and Tshroom and Crux, who kept the show going this week while I was moving. I say this all the time. While I am very flattered and humbled and love getting to be with you guys every single day, I'm the face of the Broz. A lot of you guys do watch to see me. This community and what we're doing is so much bigger than me, so much bigger than Tshroom and Smay and Crux. This is about building a community of investors and individuals who want to learn and grow, build generational wealth. We're not going to emotionally attach ourselves to things. We're going to be bullish when it's time to be bullish. We're going to be bearish when it's time to be bearish. We're going to trade crypto. We're going to trade stocks. We're going to invest in things that make us money because it's about bettering our lives and the people's lives around us. If that's something you guys are on board with and you love, come join that community right now. Again, I've said it several times, but I really, really, really want to nudge you that direction. Join that VIP trading group before it's too late to miss out on or to get all the great benefits. With that said, though, guys, love all of you. We'll be back on Monday, same time, same place. I'll actually be live Monday morning for live trading, assuming my Wi-Fi is working, obviously. But 9 a.m. live trading. You don't want to miss that one. We're looking at a lot of different charts. You guys have a fantastic weekend. Adios.